Hello viewers, welcome to a fresh edition on the program Health 247. I remain your host Irene Okechukwu. On this program Health 247, it's everything pertaining your health. Always making health your priority. So today we're going to be discussing a very exciting topic, a topic I consider very important. It is sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia, as the time goes, are those people who always fall sick. That is from a layman's understanding. You know, so many people who have the sickle cell anemia, at the end, they may not live long, while some of them happen to live long. This sickle cell anemia can be detected at a very early stage, and it could be avoided, especially when it has to do with your relationship. You know, many couples feel because of love supersede all, they want to just have it all by getting married to themselves, notwithstanding their genotype. That is, they know that they are AS, and they know that they are going to produce either an AS or an SS child, but they take the risk by marrying each other, of which it is very risky in their relationship, because at the end of this day, if they happen to give birth to an SS baby, they end up suffering this child, because this child will not have a normal life just like other children, of which it will affect their family. You see the child always falling sick, rushing to the hospital. But why can't you avoid this now that it's early? Today, we are going to be discussing it at an awesome rate, because I have a hematologist who will be telling us everything about sickle cell anemia, how it's being detected and how it could be prevented. He's going to take us around this topic, sickle cell anemia. So join me as we link up to him. Some people find it difficult to discuss their health issues. Others believe that their health issues are spiritual. Are you wondering? All ages are involved when discussing health. Join us on Health 247 as we bring you answers to all your health-related questions. Health 247 will provide you round the clock on health tips. Join us on Health 247 as we bring you answers to all health-related questions. Watch Health 247 on Rapid TV, channel 176 on Star Times. Alright viewers, welcome back to the show on Health 247. And here we have with me on the show is Dr. Kelechi Chikizie. He's a senior registrar of Department of Hematology, Federal Medical Center in Abia State. So he's going to be taking us through on the topic, sickle cell anemia. Dr. Chikizie, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure. All right, can you tell us more about sickle cell anemia?
Okay, so sickle cell anemia is it's a genetic disorder. It belongs to a group of disorders called the sickle cell diseases. Okay, but it's a genetic disorder in which the sufferer inherits the abnormal S hemoglobin from both parents. So we call that the homozygous SS condition, where, you know, in our usual parlance, you ask somebody what's your genotype and they say I am SS. Well, that's the sickle cell anemia, though that's not genotype really, but that's what people call it generally around here. So it's a genetic condition in which one inherits the abnormal S hemoglobin from both parents. So such a person is HBSS. And the disease itself is characterized by a loss of the usual shape of red blood cells due to the abnormal S hemoglobin. Under certain conditions, the red blood cell will lose its shape. And when it does lose its shape, it becomes more rigid, and so it's not able to meander through smaller vessels. Now, the normal structure of red blood cells, the normal HbA hemoglobin, is such that when they pass through small blood vessels, they are able to lose their shapes in order to pass through much smaller vessels, and then in the course of the flow of blood. But in this condition, where you have situations that will cause sickling, situations like dehydration, situations like fever, okay, high altitudes where there is deoxygenation. Okay, so in those conditions, the red blood cell loses its shape And unlike the normal red blood cell that is able to lose its shape and still come back to its normal biconcave shape, the normal red blood cell will be biconcave in shape. So it's able to adjust its shape to be able to pass through small vessels. But this S hemoglobin, the red blood cell that contains the S hemoglobin, is when it loses its shape, it becomes sickled in shape. That's why we call it the sickled cell. So it becomes sickled like the knife, that sickle knife, like a C-shaped knife. Good. So it loses the shape to that one, and it's not able to return back to its normal shape. And that one is rigid and is not able to pass through those vessels. So when it gets to those much smaller vessels, they get stuck.
All right, sorry. I've also been wondering, most of them who do not know of the field on medicine, they wonder what this hemoglobin means. So can you break it down for our viewers to know what this hemoglobin means and why this hemoglobin is important to the body?
Okay, generally we know blood.
Yeah.
Okay, so blood is a mixture of basically three cells and then the plasma. The plasma, of course, contains a lot of other things. But majorly in the blood, we have three cells and then the plasma. Plasma contains proteins and a lot of other things. But the cells themselves are the white blood cells, the red blood cells, and the one we call the platelets. Those are the three major cells in the blood. Now, the red blood cell, usually called red blood cell because of that red color. And the red blood cell is the red blood cell because it contains hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is that biochemical component of the red blood cell that gives it its ability to transport oxygen. The major function. It's a protein. It's a protein. When we say protein, it's a biochemical compound. It's a protein. Yes, it is. So it is that component of the red blood cell that is able to carry oxygen. Okay, so it gives the red blood cell and then the blood itself as a whole the ability to transport oxygen, which is the major function of red blood cells. So it is that component of the red blood cell that transports oxygen. The name is hemoglobin. And of course, they say it's a protein, which is correct because the hemoglobin itself is a combination of two major components, two major compounds, heme and globin. Globin is a protein. Globulin is a protein. Heme is the reddish pigment. Okay, so heme and globulin, hemoglobin. Okay, so it's a protein and it's contained in red blood cells, and its function is majorly to transport oxygen. All right, so it is that hemoglobin. Now, the hemoglobin itself has different types. There is the A hemoglobin, and then there is the AO. There is the F. These are normal hemoglobins. Now, the A is the usual hemoglobin in adults. The F is the usual hemoglobin in fetuses and then newborns. So, as the children grow older, the production of the F hemoglobin is reduced as they begin to produce the A. Yes, that is what happens in normal life. But there are abnormal hemoglobins, which are actually as a result of genetic disorders. So, if when you look at the production of proteins in the body or the formation of proteins in the body, there are amino acids that would come together they are complexed to form proteins. So, you see, for those amino acids, one can be wrongly placed in a position where it shouldn't be. And that changes the whole structure of that protein. So what happens here is that instead of having glutamic acid at the sixth position, glutamic acid is an amino acid. Now, ordinarily in the normal adult hemoglobin, that's hemoglobin A, instead of having glutamic acid at the sixth position, okay, of the sixth codon of the beta globin chain, is a chain. Now, instead of having glutamic acid at the sixth codon or position, you now have valine. So valine has replaced glutamic acid. So now, if there was glutamic acid there, it would have been hemoglobin A. But because valine has replaced it, it becomes hemoglobin S. And now that hemoglobin S has less capacity to transport oxygen. Okay, and then it still has other abnormalities. And so the body also identifies it as an abnormal hemoglobin. And so those are the reasons why that S hemoglobin is associated with a lot of complications and problems. Those who have it tend to suffer. Now, I talked about sickle cell diseases because there are other abnormal hemoglobins. There is hemoglobin E, hemoglobin ORAB, hemoglobin D, Punjab. There are a lot of them. But what happens is that in sickle cell diseases, there is the inheritance of the abnormal S hemoglobin with any other abnormal hemoglobin. So one could actually be SD, one can be SC, one can be SE. So all of those are sickle cell diseases. But when we say sickle cell anemia, we are specific for one who has inherited 2S hemoglobins instead of 1S and maybe another abnormal one. So 1S and a D makes it sickle cell disease. But 1S from the father, another S from the mother makes it sickle cell anemia. That's the SS people talk about. Okay.
So going further, what could lead to the sickle cell anemia? Like, what are the causes of sickle cell anemia?
Again, like I said, it's a genetic inheritance. So for one to have sickle cell anemia, it means both parents have the sickle cell trait. Now, the sickle cell trait is the condition we know as AS. That's the sickle cell trait, where you have one normal hemoglobin and then you have the abnormal S. So those, if you have an AS father and an AS mother and they marry, for every pregnancy, there is a 25% chance of having an SS child. For each pregnancy, there's a 25% chance of having an SS. So 1 in 4 chances of having an SS child. And for some persons, you could be unlucky. All right. For each pregnancy, you have the one, that 1 in 4 will be the one that, okay. So that's the situation. That's the major cause of the sickle cell disease or anemia now in this case.
All right, viewers, if you're watching us, this is Health 247. And if you want to join us, don't forget to follow all our social media platforms on Rapid TV channel 176 or the program Health 247. We're going to go for a short break, and when we come back, we're going to learn more about this topic, sickle cell anemia. Some people find it difficult to discuss their health issues. Others believe that their health issues are spiritual. Are you wondering? All ages are involved when discussing health. Join us on Health 247 as we bring you answers to all your health-related questions. Health 247 will provide you round the clock on health tips. Join us on Health 247 as we bring you answers to all health-related questions. Watch Health 247 on Rapid TV channel 176 on Star Times. All right, viewers, welcome back from the break. So we are talking about the causes of sickle cell anemia. Now there's something that I want to understand, because you just told me that the causes could be when the both parents have same trait, right? So what could be the symptom? Like, how will you know that such a child has sickle cell anemia? How can you discover it?
All right, so both parents have the traits, and then they eventually get married and have a child, and the child is HBSS. Now, when the child is born, most times in the first few months of life, the child is fine, because the child has a lot of the F hemoglobin, which I told you even has a higher ability to carry oxygen than the A, the normal adult A.
Wow.
Yeah, so the F hemoglobin is actually a good one in that sense. So because of the preponderance of the F hemoglobin in the circulation of that child, they don't tend to have problems until as the body begins to do away with the production of F hemoglobin and Now the adult hemoglobin, instead of being the A, is the S, is being produced. Problems begin to manifest. So for some of them, by say the first year of life, you begin to see some symptoms. Now at that early stage of life, now don't forget what I said, because the red blood cell becomes a little rigid and is not able to change its shape to maneuver through small blood vessels. When it gets to those small vessels, it blocks the vessel. So, when it blocks the vessel, blood is not able to flow through again. So the part of the organ beyond that point is not supplied with blood. So some form of ischemia. Basically, ischemia is cut off of blood supply. So ischemia takes place, and then you begin to see certain features of the illness. Now, at that stage of life, that's what we call the hands and foot syndrome. Okay, they begin to cry a lot. They begin to have a lot of pains and sometimes swelling in the hands and the feet. So the hands and the feet could be swollen and painful. Those are features of inflammation, basically. But for the child at that age, it can be intensely painful. And so they cry a lot and that. Again, because it is the S hemoglobin is seen to be abnormal to the body. So the red blood cell that contains the S hemoglobin is considered to be a foreign cell in the body. So the body tries to mop it up too. So the body tries to attack those cells and destroys them. Okay, now because the body destroys them, that's on one side. And then because the red blood cell membrane is not also as it should be when compared to the A hemoglobin, they are easily destroyed. Ordinarily, they become more fragile. Okay, so they are easily destroyed. So these two factors will contribute to what we call hemolysis. So red blood cells are easily broken down. They don't live out their lifespan like you would see in the normal adult hemoglobin. The normal adult hemoglobin can live as long as 90 to 120 days. But for the S hemoglobin, it could be up to just about half. Okay, so red blood cells are destroyed faster. And so you have hemolysis, usually characterized by, if you look at the eyes of some of the sufferers, you may notice that they have this greenish, yellowish eye tinge. That's actually an evidence of hemolysis.
Could that be like something they call when you give birth to baby, they say the eye is a bit yellow?
Jaundice.
Jaundice.
Yes, that's jaundice. That's what it is. It's jaundice. It's an evidence of hemolysis. Okay, so you see them having that, and they have it chronically. They have it. For some of them, they carry it. In fact, they are known with it. For some of them. Okay, so that's another thing that could happen. And with this jaundice will come anemia. So what our people will call blood shortage, because the red cells are destroyed faster. Yeah, so they may not have sufficient blood. So at some points they will require blood transfusion. Yes. And then that's disease condition in itself confers some form of diminished immunity on the carrier. So they are prone to a lot of infections. Yes. Yes, they are prone to a lot of infections. So what you and I may be able to handle, they may not be able to handle infection-wise when we're exposed to microorganisms and antigens that can cause infections. So the immune system is low. So they get sickly off and on. You have, some kinds of infections. All right. And that could take them in and out of the hospital. So majorly, commonly, they would have the anemia that will require blood transfusion. They will have frequent infections. And then they will have the painful episodes. That's the pain. Now, beyond the hands and foot, as they grow older, other forms of pain will begin to come in, usually of the bones. And this pain can be excruciating, really. It can be excruciating.
And that's the much we can take on the topic, sickle cell anemia. Get to know your genotype and your partner before marriage, so as to avoid problems in the future. See you and bye-bye.